Alright, cool. Everybody has invis pods. So going into this pull, you're going to pull these two with patrol. And this hurts a lot. So I'm going to pull them all in. Then I'm going to pop anti-rune weapon. But you can see, even with the rune weapon up, when abilities get through, they really hurt. So I'm waiting for rune weapon to go off. And here towards the end of the pull, if you have an ability that can help you kite, you want to make sure that you can get that kite off. Watch out for the Stoneborn, because I started taking for granted that we always have a Venthyr, and we do not.
It's too far away.
So here I'm going to pop some cooldowns as well. When I got low, I hit my blood spattered. Looks like we do have a Venthyr, which is going to be quite handy. But you can see very soon my rune weapon's coming off, so I'm going to use that. These pulls have a lot of white damage. So if you're, I don't know prop paladin cooldowns, but I would use 1 major cooldown on the first pull and 1 major cooldown on this pull. Try not to stack them too much. That's a big thing as a tank. Oop, taking a lot of magic damage, so I'm going to pop AMZ or AMS. These pulls I try to do separately because the Houndmaster is nasty. And the bleeds are hard to do with the Houndmasters. You saw how much damage I just took. I went from 100 to 25%. So on this pull, the Houndmaster casts an ability that increases the size of the Gargants. It's called Beast Rage or something. So even though shoot is annoying, I just try to position Loyal Beast. There it is. So there's my stun. Oh, so I didn't get it off in time, so I might die. Yep. So, oh, my stun was on cooldown. So I screwed up. I used my stun in the last pull, and so I did not have it for the Houndmaster, and I died, but my Alar trinket procced. So these Gargants, if they're enraged, will one-shot you, so if for some reason that cast gets off, you have to run. There's no physical way to survive. So this guy's popping a lot of his cooldowns on me. I'm noticing that the healer is popping a lot of cooldowns on me when I'm not actually in danger, because a lot of people aren't used to healing Death Knights and they're really spiky. But Curse of Obliteration really hurts on these pulls, so even though the Wicked Bolt hurts, I would save your kick for a Curse of Obliteration and just get one off whenever you can.
Metal all you like, mortals. You only delay the inevitable.
Alright, so I also kind of screwed up because the Monk, I forgot how much Monks need mana, and I haven't played with one much lately. So I'm going to do the early anti-magic zone. But you need to make sure that when you're looking at the percentage, if the pull you're coming up on is about to spawn a Prideful, especially on Spiteful Week, the ghosts are going to keep the healer in combat, so chain pulling becomes harder with a Monk. So basically if you're like, okay, I'm at 18%, this next pull is going to give me a Prideful, then you would want to let the Monk drink then. But we have 2 AMZs, and so we did well. Now with that, I'm going to pull all of these. So this is tough, so I pop Dancing Rune Weapon and a couple other things to group them up. But you see how I take the mobs, and then once I have them grouped, the first thing I try to do is stack them on top of each other. Collect Sins is what you want to kick in this pull, by the way. I noticed my cooldowns are down, so I popped my trinket. My Blood Spattered Scale. Sins is almost going off. Here I'm going to run, just to get out, and start moving towards the next pull. But you'll try to, first thing you should always do is try to group your mobs up together. Once they're in a big group, then you want to point them away from the group. Especially on these weeks, so this is, I'm Or this group has, let's see, what are they called? Obliterators? No, it's the Dark Blades. So the Dark Blades have a frontal
I will enjoy
thing.
humbling you.
So you see, I'll group them up and then point them away. And this guy needs to be kicked so that I can pull him in. But they're pointing away from the group, so that when Deadly Thrust goes off, I can dodge it. But a lot of people, when you're in higher keys, if melee, non-tank melee are in front of the Dark Blades, they'll die. They'll get one shot. So I'm gonna stun here just because. But Deadly Thrust is, oh, I ate one. So DPS doesn't really help me kick a whole lot here. So the Dark Blades hurt. Like I said, you see how they're pointing away. The group's all over here, above me at the top of my screen. And I have the mobs pointed down towards the bottom of my screen. I'll also use my kick a lot at the beginning of a pull, which you won't need to do because you're a paladin. You can use your shield, but a lot of times it's really difficult to group up mobs without a kick. So sometimes if you don't have a grip or something, like these guys, the two obliterators will just stand apart from each other and it's impossible to group them up and make sure your group do a lot less damage. Once they're grouped, I try to kick the obliteration.
I'm out of range.
So 1.47 plus 38.9 is 39.5. So we will not get a prideful in this pull. Or we'll get a prideful at the end of this pull, but the monk's at full mana. Got my kick saved for the collect sins.
Beware.
This pull is really gross for healers. Especially on Grievous week, because the slam that the shard does is going to put everyone in Grievous range. So sometimes I pop a minor cooldown here. Right now I don't really seem to need it. But just to make it a lot easier, being in Grievous is really, really rough. I'm going to stun the Spiteful Shade because he's just... I didn't do it fast enough. He killed the Death Knight. So the Death Knight keeps tanking his spirit. And then there's nothing you can do about that. You can stun them, you can slow them, but if he's not going to run away from him, there's nothing you can do. And the monk was at full mana before that pull started, so the fact that he's at 20% is bad news, but also there's nothing else I could have done about it. The Pride, you don't have to face a particular way. I would just be careful that your DPS is actually moving. The rule is supposed to be that when you get it, that if you're close to being out of range, you move a little bit out of the way. Most of the time, I just don't move when I get it. This monk is full blown out of mana, so he's barely keeping this group alive. And he's also healing me again way too much. I could survive against a Prideful on my own. As a paladin, you might be able to survive against Prideful on your own, but Pride is really, really hard to kill. I'm just gonna pull these because I don't need the group to stay alive. Gonna pop a potion really quick. They did actually take some damage. These guys' physical damage is really, really high. So even though they look like minor mobs, when you pull this group, you have to be careful of your health because you're going to take a lot of damage, a lot of physical damage, just from the melees. Alright, this time I'm going to pull the Obliterator, try not to get the Pat. Kick the Curse. Again, you saw I waited for them to get to me, grouped them up. You saw his health dipped there, So even though I pointed them this way, he was standing in front and the deadly thrust hit him. Didn't hit anybody that time. Pat's coming. So because that patrol is coming, I'm going to wait and not pull the patrol on the left. Again, remember to wait for the Vicious Beast so you can see my Sun's off cooldown. Or Enraged Beast, whatever the fuck it is, I can never remember. But the Rapid Fire you can move out of. It's completely avoidable damage. Pop a cooldown here just because the bleed hurts a lot. It's going to be a good idea for me to kite soon, so I'm going to drop Death and Decay and run. 4 stacks of the bleed is probably the most you can feasibly take, maybe. Even then, it's going to hurt a lot. And when I come back in, they're going to immediately hit me with both. So I popped a cooldown right before I went into melee, because after kiting, when you run back into melee with the Gargants, they usually both instantly hit you for about 70% of your health. So you just have to get used to that. So again, the rapid fire is avoidable, so I don't use my stun on it. Flail Beast, I do. Me and the Hunter are also stunned, so that's nice. You can see I only have 1 stack of the bleed, which is tankable. Oh, now I have 3. So I pop a cooldown. He's got the ring, which is nice. I drop stacks of the bleed. You can see again I'm gonna run in and get hit pretty hard. So after this, I'm gonna wait for a drink. Gotta kill the shades so that the monk can drink, because next pull we're gonna get a pride. So because next pull he's gonna get a pride. Waiting for him to drink up. Okay. So I'm gonna pull this group on the left. Again, this group hurts a lot, so I pop a cooldown. And this differs from some of the online routes, like the Dratnos routes, because he has you pull this group, this full group in the corner first, and then use the Prideful to pull everything else. The problem with that is that your group has to be really aware of the health of things, and in this next group, if everything doesn't die at the same time, then you get the Prideful in the middle.
What news do you have?
Now this is bad, because the monk died somehow. I think he got hit by a spirit. So I'm just gonna let myself die, because it's prideful at 20 stacks. So this is at 20 stacks, so I'm just gonna die. I have to wait for its stacks to go away before you release. Because otherwise it'll chase you. So here I'm waiting for the stacks to disappear. So you have to wait for the stacks to go away before you release, because otherwise it'll chase you all the way across the zone. So now you have to wait. And yeah, that's rough. This key is probably done. But, well, I mean, we probably won't make the timer, but we'll still do the key, because Makes high-res keys even harder. Yeah, it's the worst. Okay, it appears to have reset. Gonna mount up. At least the Pride doesn't have full health. Yeah, it makes hierarchies way harder. Prides are the hardest thing to do in the dungeon, honestly. They're harder than bosses. They're harder than any trash. It's the only thing, I've heard some people who do really high keys say that it's the only thing that can really kill you in high keys. So in lower keys where people like save their cooldowns to try and not waste them on the prideful because they want to pad meters by using their cooldowns on the pull after you have the pride, you actually are more than likely to die on the pride than you are to anything else. So I kick the sins. I popped my trinket here to give me a chance to group things up. Alright, so some enemy and sins went off because my kick was on cooldown and I overlapped with somebody. Gotta dodge the swirlies, gotta pull the shade in. So our hunter bloodlusted. I would not have bloodlusted there, but it looks like it's actually a good choice because without it we may have wiped. Normally that's not a pull I would call for bloodlust. The other thing is that the main way you can save your group time is by moving ahead to the next pull as soon as you can.
I will enjoy humbling you.
So if there's a way to move on to the next group while your group finishes everything off, yep, see, he got one shot by the thrust, right? So I got these guys pointing towards the stairs. I point my camera directly at the floor a lot, which isn't sexy, but it lets me see everything in a much clearer way. And then the thrust comes, and I move, and then I move back in front. Taking a lot of damage here. Thrust, move, pop another defensive. Thrust. Yeah, it's the main way that you can help, because your job as a tank is to enable your DPS to do the most damage possible. That's what it really comes down to. Your damage doesn't really matter. Damage of other, like the healer, he'll be fine most of the time. It's really about enabling your DPS to do as much damage as possible, which is all about positioning and trying to guarantee their survival. And that comes a lot through positioning. So here I'm going to pop a cooldown to group everything up. Almost died there, but I had a cooldown ready. I'm going to try and move out from in front of the Houtmaster. I have 4 stacks of the bleed, so that was a good look from the monk so that I can clear it. Oh, the beast almost went off. I freaked out and thought it was. I'm going to pop my trinket here because the bleed just hurts a lot. So I'll try and point them away again. I'm very close to dying still.
The master will stop you.
My health is ping-ponging up and down quite a bit. I have 6 stacks of the bleed, which really, really hurts. Gonna taunt the Pride because he's gonna one-shot the Death Knight. Pop my AMC early. So like I said, it's the only thing that can really kill you in the dungeon is a Pride dying slowly. Or your tank getting stunned by the Pride. It's bad. I'm not sure why the second AMZ isn't going off. He should have it here. Okay, this boss, something that's a really neat trick that I learned from watching the MDI. So you pick up the boss, you're gonna stand in one place for the slam, right? So it's gonna hit you, it always hits you. It hurts a lot. When the second slam comes, deliberately stand where the first slam was, because it's gonna make it so it takes up a lot less space. So the second slam is coming, I move into the first one, and then I come back out. Because you briefly are going to hop in and out, and you're not going to die from it. So Sin Light's coming in 2 seconds. Once you cast the next shard, you cast a slam. Then Sin Light I can cast over here. You want to make sure that there's space on all sides of him for the Sin Light. So I stack it up, move him out of the Sin Light right before the timer for the Sin Light comes up. Again, standing in the shards on non-tyrannical isn't going to kill you. So at the end of the day... Hey Leilani! At the end of the day, it's not bad if you stand in the shards for 2 seconds. Also, in an ideal world, your DPS would group up the shards, but you can see here the crumbling slam. I put it back where there is one already, and then I have some space to move us this way. Again, on Tyrannical, this guy would be dead. The crumbling debris will one-shot anyone who's not a tank. Alright, so now I'm going to come up to the top of the stairs. I'm going to run forward, gonna sprint, and pop an invis pot, and run all the way through. Essentially just easier to make people look for the AoE cross and move out, so it's really easier than moving out and trying to hit for people. Yeah, exactly. People, you just don't move. I'm gonna look down the ramp to make sure. It is. I'm trying to talk through my pulling philosophy and why I do things that I do as a tank. Because my friend Tree here is trying to learn how to. He's trying to swap from playing a mage to playing a tank in Mythic Plus. So there's a lot to learn. So I'm kind of voicing over the run as I do it. So this I assume you know that when he does the stone call, if you do any damage to them, they stop moving. So the key is to just do nothing until they're grouped.
Be still, mortal. You will be crushed.
Group them all up. I use my stun to get out of there. Bam.
Fight around in blood.
Beware.
Alright, so Echelon again hits like a freight train, just in general. So you'll just want to watch your health. Healer was a little late with the cocoon, and it wasn't really necessary.
Beware.
Your fate.
So now he's going to summon ads after this next one. I think.
Beware.
So Stone Call, so now I'm going to pop Slappy Hands so things get in a little closer.
The crown bleeds.
Beware.
You are silent.
You're going to take a lot of damage here, so if you have a cooldown, pop it. Because all the ads will be casting Bolt on you, and you'll be taking big hits from Echelon.
He's carved in stone.
So first stone's on me, so I'm going to walk into the ads. Blow them up.
Finally,
Go back to what I was doing. I also battle res the Death Knight in the middle because he was dead.
Beware.
minions.
This one's the hardest one, but I saved Grippy for it.
Beware.
Be still, mortal. Dust to dust.
So if these ads don't die, it's going to be shitty.
You never stood a chance.
It's going to battle res him as well.
Your fate is carved in stone. You will be crushed.
I don't think I have anything up right now.
Never stood. Take you.
Beware.
I've never been much for tanking. I prefer standing back. Yeah, me too. he hit the one that I was gonna hit. Alright, so I'm gonna slow everything and I'm gonna get the fuck out of here. I don't have aggro on either of these, but people don't realize that. I'm very low, so I'm trying to do my best to stay alive. Alright, I seem to have stabilized a little bit, gonna slappy hands. Okay, so the Gargons are huge, so I'm gonna keep running. He's immune to stun. So I'm gonna pop some type of cooldown so I can face tank it for a second or two. The Hunter dispelled the enrage, it looks like. I'm gonna drop a slow. There's one Houndmaster left. Should also always be checking your healer's mana. So you can see that he's at about 5%. We have a lot of DPS deaths this run, so. Pretty sure he can release. Alright, I have Fleshcraft up, so I'm gonna go ahead and use it. Alright, Monk is drinking.
I'm out of range.
Pot my trinket. Dodge the thrust. Get back in. Kick the flagged sins. Dodge the thrust. Stun the sins if I can. Got it off in the last second. So you can see we're not going to time this key. Our damage is a little too low, and we have just way too many deaths. But such is life.
Your penance is at hand!
Just low-key taking the Stoneborn and the Adjudicator.
Their pain shall enlighten you.
Ah, it's on me right as I pick up my phone. That's rude.
It's too far away.
You must face your punishment. Their pain shall enlighten you.
How exhausting.
You must face your
Put my
punishment.
phone down.
I suppose failure
Kick
brings
the
an
thing.
end to your
Their
kind.
pain shall enlighten you.
Got the fixation again as soon as I picked up my phone. Just like the volley's gonna go off.
I need to get closer.
Pain shall enlighten me.
God, 3 times in one fight? I don't think I've ever had that happen before.
You must face your punishment. My flock needs me.
So we're gonna be 3 or 4 minutes over. Gonna wait for the monk. Oh, apparently we're not gonna wait for the monk.
It's too far away.
Also, tanking this expansion is a little rough. I think in tanking, I feel squishier than I have ever felt in any expansion that I can remember. Except maybe the beginning of Draenor. I feel like I was really squishy at the beginning of Draenor.
I'm out of range.
So basically throughout this pull, I'm just popping cooldowns whenever I can. It's really, really frantic to tank this pull, because these manifestations of envy start out targeting you, and then they'll periodically
I need to get closer.
fixate people. So you try to get them on you, but then when they fixate, they'll just all chase after 1 or 2 people. Yeah, this group's lacking, like, focus damage. They're doing damage kind of occasionally here and there. But at some pulls they're doing a lot, some pulls they're not doing any at all. You can see he's got no mana for this pride because took so long to kill that last thing. Someone early AMZ. Noticed that he was a little close. I got stunned anyway. I tried to move out of it. You see the prideful is at 20 stacks for an extended period of time, or Death Knight died. I thought he died. I don't know. He death wished. Interesting. I don't think I've seen anyone with that.
I must
Maybe.
deal with you myself. Be gone, rabble!
I'm out of range.
You are beneath my contempt.
So this fight, if you don't know, if you zoom your thing your way out,
Behold the might of the bent
you can see which way each of the statues are facing before they get thrown at you. So when you're melee DPSing or range DPSing, let me see if I can throw one out.
overflows.
I'm gonna try and get 2 of these. I think I have 2. I'm not sure. Maybe I have 0. I think I have 2. No, he has 2. Okay. So here, if you
Your pride undoes you. You are beneath
How can I
my
talk? So you see it's
contempt.
facing here, it's gonna go right there.
Beware. I have anima to
So
spare.
I think I can try and get 2 of these. Yeah, there we go.
Your pride undoes you. You are beneath my contempt.
Toss is coming right at the melee. I did the squirrel thing where I decided to go left and then went right. So
I am losing my patience.
that toss is going that way, so I'm good there. The Death Knight's dead because he got hit by the statue.
Your pride undoes you. Out of my way.
That one's coming through again. But yeah, that's the dungeon. It's a lot of really, really high creature damage.